Hey, hi guys.
Okay, hi. Quick
This is
tutorial
Mr. C
on how
here
to
with
edit your pods in
another
Audacity.
short video tutorial. This one's going to be on how you edit your podcasts using Audacity.
Let's open Audacity.
So start by opening Audacity,
And once Audacity is opened,
and
go up to File, click File, and then click Open. The open window points to where you've left it, which in my case is in the right folder, but you've got these icons here for searching for yours. Locate the specific pod you're looking for. I know mine was the 5th of September. So once you've found the right one, just highlight it and open. Just left click and then open. You're going to have to bear with me here because running this video recording software and the Audacity plus Skype and whatever else I've got going on is a little bit too much for my single core processor machine here, but it will get us there. So yeah, there's the indication of how long the importing of the file is going to take, and it's nowhere near as long as this usually. It's very quick, but obviously the time varies depending on the capabilities of your individual setups and hardware. So while this is opening, we'll run through a few of the buttons. Up here we have the pause, play, stop, start, end and record buttons. The handy thing about Audacity is that once it's set up, it kind of remembers the settings and you haven't got to keep fiddling around. All you really need to know is the basics of how to operate Audacity for the purpose of editing pods and maybe recording audio, because it is quite a handy audio recorder too. It'll record much clearer audio than most downloads from live streaming internet with some sort of MP3 conversion program. Audacity does it very well. So yeah, pause, you play, your stop, your go to start button, and your go to the end of the track button, and the record button, which we won't be getting into just now, seeing as that's the button for recording live audio. We're using Audacity here just for the purposes of editing the pod, but quite a handy feature, and that's the button to use to start it. You can't actually click on anything until the file's been fully downloaded, but the process, as I say, is usually a lot faster than you're seeing here at the moment, but it does give me time to explain in a bit more detail. These buttons here are the tools that you'll be using: the selection button, the zoom button, and just to the right of the zoom, the time shift button. The zoom, right click and left click, zooms in and out. But you'll see as we use that in a minute, but that's a very handy button to be clicking on. It expands the waveform and compresses it again. It just makes it a lot easier for you to see the individual sounds involved when you're looking at editing something out. The highlighter tool, the selection tool, which is like the little eye looking button there, is the tool that you use for highlighting parts of the track, and the magnifying glass is the zoom tool for sort of straightening out the waveform and compressing it back up again. It does so much more, Audacity, but to avoid confusion we're just going to stick to what we're going to use it for today. But there are an awful lot more things that you can do with Audacity. So the time shift tool here, if you select that, it just allows you to move the track on left click and hold. You can kind of drag the track left or right so you can see beyond the extent of the screen window there. It's a handy feature when you're rushing through your editing, but you don't actually need to use it. We'll just stick to those three tools in the main, plus the undo and redo buttons and the snipping tool that cuts the selected pieces of audio out, which is what most forms of editing tend to do. Once it's highlighted, you click that pair of scissors there and it cuts out the highlighted piece as long as you haven't clicked the pause button. If you click the pause button to stop the playing of the track, none of the other buttons will work. You have to click on the stop button. So yeah, you have the facility to undo, I think it's 6 or 7 actions, although some actions can't be undone, but the majority of them can. And you can undo 6 or 7, I think it is, and also redo anything you've undone. Very versatile piece of software. Undo and redo buttons and your snipping tool. That's what we'll focus on in the main here. The other functions generally come in when you're splicing audio and doing other more complicated things. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we'll stick on the basics. Just a note there that shows the recording device that you're using and your output device, the speakers. Something I've noticed, incidentally, for a lot of people that are wondering why their settings keep getting altered from where they've left them in their audio properties. Whenever you open Audacity, it seems that your Audacity settings, if they differ from that of your preset audio configuration, the second you start to open Audacity, it's got a habit of changing the audio properties. So before you go live with your broadcast, it's always worthwhile getting into the audio properties and make sure the correct sound device has indeed been selected. So yeah, it's almost loaded. This blue bar on the bottom here can also slide the track left and right, and these windows let you know exactly where on the timeline of your track the play point is. And it's worthy of taking note sometimes of exactly where you're looking at, because if you're editing out very fine pieces of sound, you may want to know whereabouts in the track you're doing it, just in case you lose your place with the pointer. At least you've got a record there of the time if you remember to look at it. So we're almost fully loaded here. It's normally within a minute, even on this machine, but as I say, with the additional strain. Anyway, here we go. So here's your sound file, and that's the full sound file in view there. You can see it starts here. That's the very beginning, and it ends just within the extent of the window there. It's all compressed up. You can barely make out any valleys at all there. We'll just give it a play here. Click play to start listening. And you can lower the volume there if it's a bit too loud. It won't affect the export volume. That's really the speaker level of Audacity. So you've identified it's the right track. Now what we're looking to do is highlight and remove any pieces of audio that we don't want in the finished podcast. So this portion of audio here, after selecting the zoom tool, we left click to expand it. And you can see from the nice neat waveform there, that's a bit of processed audio already, so that's likely to be a music track or some such. To be able to play the track, or I'm just moving around with the time shift tool there just to show you. You can see the end and the beginning of a piece of audio there. Just click on the timeline up here and it'll start to play. And you don't need to be adjusting that really, this is just for the purposes of my first attempt at recording. So I'll click stop there. We're going to select the zoom tool and left click to expand just a little bit more so we can see clearly the beginning and end of the tracks. So now we're going to take the selection tool and select from the very end of that track there. The very end of that track, of course, being the end of the jingle. This is a music track that preceded the jingle, and we want to select all of it. So you could see I'm able to let go of the mouse there and pick it up again even afterwards. So we're going to extend this highlighted piece to the end of the track, just before the beginning of the voice audio. Release the mouse and click on the scissors, which will snip that highlighted section out and leave us with the rest of the track. If you make a mistake, you can undo it by clicking that undo button. Just start the audio here and have a listen. And if you pick up any audio that you want to remove that's not very big in size, once you've listened to it, and it does mean if you're going to be quite clean with your pods, it means listening to the whole thing over again. But if you identify something that you want to remove, such as that, stop the track at the point where you noticed it was. If you make sure you click stop rather than pause, it makes the editing easier. So it's somewhere in there. I'll just click the zoom tool and left click to expand it a little bit more. And we're just going to start playing again by going up to the timeline after I've selected the selection tool. Click on the timeline, it starts playing, and indeed there's the very offending article there. So I want to click stop. Expand it a little bit more to make it even easier to see the piece of sound I want to remove. The selection tool, just click play again to make sure we've got it right. And when I say click play, we're just clicking on the timeline, which automatically starts it playing. Yep, that's the piece I want, so click stop, highlight it, let's take it up to the beginning of the next sound, release and snip. And then we can just click on the timeline up here again, which will start the audio playing. We can see that the snipped piece sounds fine. The other thing to do to keep it neat is if you come across any large gaps in the audio, just highlight the gap and snip it out. So the easiest way I find is to use your right click and left click to expand the track as much as you need to identify individual sounds, and then recompress it with the other mouse button to bring it all together so you can see more clearly there which are likely to be the voice audio in between the music audio. And if it's the music audio that you're looking to edit out, this is the quickest way of finding the beginning and end of it, rather than having to listen to all of it. Because if you're in a hurry to edit, you'll want to expand it out at the area. Just point to the area you want to expand it from. Once you've found it, highlight the selection tool. You can always click there to play and listen. It'll play from any point on that timeline that you click on. And then once you've identified the piece you're looking for, if you click the pause button instead of stop, what happens is anything else you try and do, you won't be able to, because it's in pause mode, not stop mode. So just to show you, if we highlight this piece of audio here and try and remove it, because we're in pause mode, nothing's happening. So click stop as opposed to pause, and if we snip that now, because we're out of pause mode into stop, just check that is something we want to remove. Click stop. Now when you click the snip, it'll remove it. Now I want to know, I know we want to remove all of this anyway, so just hover near the end of the highlighted area, a little finger will pop up, which you can't see under my highlighter there, but a little hand with a finger pops up, and just left click at that point and drag it to where you want it. Here's a gap in what looks like to be a song, but just to be sure I'm not clipping off something I want, we'll cut it there. And the piece of the audio we didn't clip, we'll just listen to see if it does indeed belong to that song. Yes, it does, so we'll stop it, highlight it from the beginning, and just expand it with the zoom tool to make it easier to select with the selector tool. Click at the beginning of the piece you want to remove, hold the left mouse button and drag to the point that you want to finish the highlighted area on. And if you're not sure, what you can do before you snip is just go back up to the timeline, left click, and it'll play. Yep, indeed that belongs to the song, so click stop. Now you can click the snipping tool. Right, so with the bulk of the music edited out already, as you can see, this is mainly voice audio, which is what the pod was all about. I was interviewing a guest, so I'll just right click to compress the file up a bit. As you can see, this blue bar expands out as the file contracts. We can use that also to have a quick scan through, looking for any obvious signs for something that might need editing. As you can see here, there seems to be a trough there, and what that'll be is more than likely the guest's volume was set higher than my volume, and it is something worthwhile to balance right at the time, because it saves you having to amplify or decrease levels if you get it right with your mixing desk at the time of recording. But I'll just show you what to do in the instance that you do find some audio that you want to kind of level out. You can see the end of the taller spikes here we'll just start playing from, so we can just listen to the difference in levels, and if it does warrant it, which it probably will in this case, if it does warrant it, highlight the part that needs amplifying. And of course you can expand the track much wider to make it easier to select, but for the purposes of showing you how it's done, you highlight the area that you want to amplify in this instance. So you click on Effect up here and then click on Amplify. It automatically works out how much it needs amplifying by. You could just click OK. If you click this preview, it'll give you a little indication of what you're about to alter. So happy with that, click OK, and then you'll see once the process is finished, which again is generally almost instant. It's just that my machine's a bit slow at the moment, and you'll see the waveform spikes increase when the process is ended. The idea of that then is that the balance of the audio is maintained, and you can do that all the way through, but just to speed up the purposes of this tutorial, we can see here there looks like some music at the end, so we'll just start the play from here just by left clicking on that timeline, and yep, just after I say goodnight, the audio starts. So we'll pick it up at the beginning of the audio track, which is most easily accomplished by expanding it out so you can clearly see the beginning. But what we'll do here is just show you how to remove the audio from the last piece of audio that you spoke that you want to end your podcast on. So we'll stop the track, select the zoom tool, left click to expand it a bit so we can see where the music track starts after the end of the spoken audio. We'll just click on the play line here just to make sure. Yep, that's the bit. So selection tool, click in the gap between the two bits of audio, hold the left mouse button down and drag it along to the end. If you go too far, just bring it back. When that yellow line appears, that's you in line with the end of the track. And then snip. Now obviously there can be a fair bit more to editing, but this is just to show you relatively briefly how I do it anyway. So you can move that blue bar just to bring the track back into view. See, it's still quite heavily stretched out, so we're right clicking to expand it back together again. Again, you know, it's always worthwhile just having a quick look through it to make sure you haven't missed any music or whatever that's not meant to be there. If you over compress it by right clicking, just left click a couple of times to expand it back out again. Okay, so that appears to be ready to go. You know, yours might not take as long, or it might take much longer, depending on how much you need to cut out of yours. This is quite obviously a piece of already edited audio, more likely music, or someone else's pod. So that's the sort of line that you're looking for when you're looking to take things out. Anyway, go down here to export. You need to tell Audacity whereabouts you want the file exporting to, and you should have a folder marked uploads or something along those lines, Wake Radio uploads or something. Make sure you're in that folder. Before you open it, it's worthwhile just pointing out that on this screen you can access the rate at which the file is being saved at. Give the file name a name. You'll probably want it to change from the number code it uses. Stick on a name of the audio that allows you to identify it. It's always handy to have the date though. Now this button here, when you click it, allows you to alter the bit rate, which should be set at constant bit rate. And 128 kilobits a second on a 2-hour pod approximately keeps us just under the 150 megabyte upload limit. If it's a voice only audio, you can take that down to 32 kilobits a second for voice. 32 is absolutely fine for voice and will reduce the file size significantly. But seeing as our maximum upload is 150 megabytes per upload, 128 kilobits is fine, although the exporting takes a bit longer. But it is a much clearer sound, especially if you've got music or technical audio going on. So, happy with that. I'll just show you the process again, actually. So, you finished auditing, click File, click Export, steer it to the folder you want it saving in. Now is the time to give it a name. Desktop there, Wake Radio upload, and let's change the file name to something that's going to let us know when we look at it which one it is. So I'm going to call this Mr. C AW for awake or something like that, and then the date. You know, it's up to you how you name yours, but it is quite handy to use something that lets you recognise at a glance what it is, and I find that most handy with the date more than anything else. So once that's done, you can click Save. The metadata editor opens up for you to put in some more background information on the file you're saving. It's well worthwhile doing this because once you start to build up a view, looking at these tags will allow you to identify exactly which one you're looking at. So yeah, you know, put your handle and date in. You know, Mr. C for me, and the date, which was the 5th of September 2012 in this case, and then a brief description on what the pod consists of, which in this case is just the one thing, really, which is my guest, in this case Mick Harvey. So I'll enter those details in here. And then once we're finished typing, once you can enter whatever it is. You know, if you've covered 3 or 4 different topics, by all means put that in. So okay, that, and now the file is uploading itself to your destination folder. Now it doesn't usually take as long as this, nearly 28 minutes it's showing there. In your case it'll probably still take a couple of minutes or so. Now point to note, once this is finished its upload, that little window closes and that's the file saved. When you go to close the window, however, it'll ask you, do you want to save the changes or something along those lines. My suggestion is that you click no, and when you click no, that's the window closed down. Now the only time you'd want to click yes is if you haven't finished editing the full pod, if you've only done part of the editing, rather than save the whole file back into an MP3 and then export it back into Audacity to finish the editing. At that point it would actually be worthwhile saving as a project. Now every time you export an MP3, it will ask you, when you close Audacity down, do you want to save these changes? And again, the only time you really want to click yes as opposed to no is if you're expecting to go back in to work on that file again. If you are expecting to go back into that file to work on it again to finish editing, rather than opening the same MP3, you should open the Audacity project file, which you do by clicking File, Open Project, or Open, and then you would navigate to the saved project, which is the little Audacity speaker symbol in amongst the rest of them. Anyway, so that's it basically. I hope it was of some help. Thanks for listening.